After watching the very well received Starfield Direct, where we got almost 45 minutes of gameplay, the reception of it was mostly great, with a lot of praise and excitement for the game and all the possible things that we were able to do. It certainly took me by surprise, and it's by far the game I'm looking forward to the most. But it was also shown some doubt in the way of how the game itself is going to work, specifically the planets, and how the procedural generation works, and how the handcrafted content will lay down and connect with the procedural content. Almost every day in the Starfield subreddit and other spaces, the same question has been asked and answered plenty of times, and there are still some doubts on how the procedural generation in Starfield actually works, and the debate almost always starts when Jean-Francois, the lead technical producer of Starfield, says very rapidly how it all works.
I think what's cool about this whole system that we generate the planet itself as a procedural content, but the handcrafted content itself comes as the player explores. Our system builds a planet as the player approaches it. We stitch together a block of terrain. After that, we have the system that adds interesting locations for the player to explore, creatures to encounter, ore and plants to pick up.
So basically, the planet is generated as procedural content, which is expected, but there's also handcrafted elements. This will constitute maybe some settlements, structures, outposts, and spaces that are important for the main storyline, missions, and other stuff in the game. And of course, the major cities and areas of interest. This is no surprise in the history of video games, as well. Most games are developed this way, like Fallout 4 and even The Witcher 3 are procedurally generated games. Let's put for example Skyrim's map, which was procedurally generated, and then Bethesda handcrafted on top of what the generated terrain looked like. Procedural generation doesn't always mean that it is randomly generated as the player is running the game. And as you will guess, this will actually be a huge problem for Starfield if it worked that way. But it won't, so it's safe to say it will all probably be fine. What many developers use procedural generation for is to build out worlds and terrain during the development process. That is then saved and they add their handcrafted stuff on top of that for making things more effective, let's say. It works as a template, to put it another way. But the main issue comes when the lead technical producer of Starfield states this.
So even if your friends were to visit the same planet that you had, you would have a different story to tell.
Saying things like the planet generates as you approach it and that every player will have a different story to tell can definitely make a considerable amount of people doubt on how things work and maybe scary on how this will affect the gameplay experience and the number of bugs or complications this may create. Because, well, when you load a game like Fallout or Skyrim or whatever, the whole map is already there. It's already saved and every handcrafted location is in the exact same spot for every single player. It just needs to load. That will not really be the case for Starfield. That's why so many people had many questions on how the planets will actually be generated. Because if you take it as face value, it seems like the procedural process won't be only applied in the development process of the game, but also while you're playing the game itself, which seems tricky. You may think every planet will look different for every single person because it's generated randomly as you play the game. That is insane, and it's somewhat true but not completely, so let me explain it. What the technical producer means by every player having different experiences in the same planet is that the planet itself, the terrain and the environment and all that is procedurally generated. It's true. But it will be the same for everyone. So the mountain that I will see on planet 47 will be the exact same mountain that you will see in your planet 47 in the exact same location because it's just terrain. What he means by different experiences is that certain handcrafted components like outposts, ships, NPCs, and buildings will appear at random in different places. So I may see like a lake. That will be the same case for every single player playing Starfield. Every player will see that lake in the exact same spot because it's inside the code of the planet. But by the side of that lake, I may see an outpost with like 3 guards protecting the building. Maybe some others will see an abandoned ship, or others won't see nothing at all. But that's kind of like the point. That's how it will work. It's not like the whole planet will be totally different for everybody. How these handcrafted buildings and settlements are attached to the planets is another question. But I hope it's refined enough to not see like a tree trespassing house or like an abandoned facility spawning in the middle of the sea where you can get it, or inside a mountain where you can't even access it. I bet they have that figured out inside the coding of the game. So I wouldn't worry about it personally, but don't be surprised if things like that happened. And that could change the way we perceive the quests in the game. All those side quests and randomly generated missions at some locations may be a problem. Let's take, for example, you get inside this building, right? This building was handcrafted and it was randomly allocated in whatever planet. This building will obviously have NPCs attached to itself, right? So let's say you kill all these pirates and maybe you find out they are keeping a random astronaut hostage. That astronaut may have like a side quest for you, right? Like he may tell you that he lost his crew in the planet and he wants you to find him or whatever. I don't know, I'm making stuff up, but I'm just kind of like trying to explain how missions could vary depending on the process of the planet. But what if this crew that got lost are not close and they're literally so far that it will take you a long time to find them, and the quest takes you like half an hour or an hour. But maybe a friend of yours playing the game, maybe he finds the exact same mission, maybe on another planet or on the same one, it doesn't matter. And that crew that got lost is not too far away for him. So for your friend, that quest took him like 10 minutes, right? But for you, it took you like half an hour, I don't know. So maybe for him, the mission was really fun, but for you, the mission was a complete waste of time. So I hope missions are not like... I hope the different experiences that you will have in the game won't be better or worse for different people, but it will just be different. And I hope they can balance that out properly. But anyways, coming back to procedural content and handcrafted locations, there's definitely doubts on the size of this game. How much storage will it actually take? It's been said it's around 125 to 130 gigabytes, which seems pretty fair if you ask me for a game of this size, and a lot of it has to do on how this procedural generated content facilitates the use of less storage. But some people had doubts on how progressing in the game will take much more storage than expected. Let's say you land on a planet for the first time, so it generates itself and all of the handcrafted buildings are allocated randomly. You land, you explore it, and you do everything there is to do. Then you leave to a different planet, and so on. So what if you come back to that one planet where you did everything possible, right? Will the buildings be allocated right in the exact same place where you visited for the first time? Or will the planet go through the procedural process again and things will look different? There's definitely a question there. If the terrain is generated automatically and the handcrafted locations put at random, will that location be saved when I come back? I mean, what will be actually saved and what will not? And how that will make my experience on the game better or worse? How will the sense of progress will actually play out? And the only way this seems to make sense, once you visit a planet for the first time and everything is allocated at random, that's how it will stay forever. Or at least that's what I expect. So when you come back, the outposts and the other stuff will be right where they were. But will that affect the size of the game? The only way this can be explained is by comparing it to how Minecraft seeds work, which is basically how Starfield probably will. There are around 1,000 planets on Starfield, which in Minecraft terms will mean there are 1,000 seeds. So each planet starts by its own seed. Let me explain. In Minecraft, a seed is a value that is used to generate the terrain and the structures of a world. When a player creates a world, they can input a seed value to generate a unique terrain and a structure layout. So this means that if two players use the exact same seed, they will have identical worlds. That's mainly what Starfield will do. There are 1,000 planets, and when you approach each planet, it's almost like it triggers the seed and the world starts loading. That's why it won't be seamless to walk in and out of the planet. There will be a loading screen and a loading time or something like that. Once you leave the planet, I guess the planet will close, because if it didn't, this game will be like a terabyte in size, and that will be unbelievable. What I'm guessing is these seeds can be modified in real time, not by you but by the game itself, which means that when you play and when you build an outpost on a planet, when you come back, it will be there in the exact same place. So basically, Starfield is this space of 1,000 different Minecraft worlds, each with its own modifiable seed. So your progress is safe while not taking much of your storage. That's how I see it. It's almost like a desktop where every planet is a game, but the game only takes storage once you open it. At least that's how I see it. So to close this video, Starfield is definitely a massive game. It's almost unbelievable to dimension its scale. And I bet this will be one of those games where its story could take like 1,000 hours, maybe more, I don't know. But outside of the story, I see people, even myself, giving the game like easy 1,000 hours just playing it and exploring and building outposts and ships and so on. There's definitely a lot of games in one. It will be how all those games can connect with each other so it doesn't feel disconnected. But I definitely see players only focusing mainly on building outposts, other players only focusing on building ships, and others maybe more into planet exploration, or maybe others will only play the story and never play this game again. There's definitely a lot to this game, but I do hope there will be an argument for progressing in the game. I hope building larger and better ships will actually improve our adventures in space, and it's not this limit or plateau where once you hit it, no matter how better your spaceship is, it won't matter anymore. I want that building outposts actually matters for something beyond the storyline. What matters for me the most is the sense of progress, and I hope they make it work, because what's the point of having 1,000 planets and all these NPCs and outposts buildings, and if it becomes repetitive once you pass a certain threshold or the story's over. Anyways, that's basically it. I haven't done much game reviews lately, but I'm trying to focus on that a little bit more. I do music reviews, movie critiques, and stuff like that, so if you like this video, you can subscribe to my channel, maybe leave a like, and leave a comment about your opinions on Starfield, and that's basically it. Goodbye.
Ready for the mosh pit, Shaka Bra.